Okay, I hope everyone can see that. Thank you to Seneca and the hackathon organizers for inviting us to participate in the challenge today. Um, our challenge that we'll be speaking about is sustainable food access innovations. And I will have two of my colleagues joining me later in the day for the mentorship session. So what I would like to do is tell you a little bit about the team that will be supporting you in Esri Canada, a little bit about the challenge itself, and our approach to the challenge. And then I want to, because we're a technology partner, I just want to walk you through some of the tools that are available to you in the Esri platform that can help you address this challenge. So I'm John Salter. I'm the Director of Education and Research with Esri Canada. In our group, we support education from K to 12 through higher education. And then a large part of what we do, actually, we have 8 researchers in higher education, and we actively partner on academic research projects. So at any one time, we have up to a dozen research projects that we're working on, funded by federal and provincial agencies across a whole different set of domains. The other thing I would just mention about my experience, I also sit on the European Union's ITEA4 steering group. And this is a European research and development cluster, which is focused on software innovation. So the way you might think about it here is multiple times a year, we come together and talk about multinational, multi-year hackathons, essentially, where companies and academic researchers are coming together to focus on software innovation to address specific problems. This afternoon, I'm going to be joined by two of the researchers from my group from Education and Research. Jonathan Van Duzen will be joining us. He's a higher education specialist with a really eclectic set of interests, really focused on his expertise on user interface and user experience design, which is, of course, relevant for hackathons. In the last number of years, he's been doing a lot of work on game engines, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. And then he's also one of our primary researchers, who's been focused on Indigenous research. And every year he's part of the Indigenous Mapping Workshop, which is held in Canada, looking at approaches for mapping for Indigenous community issues. The other researcher joining me today, this afternoon, will be Alex Smith, Dr. Alex Smith. He's a spatial data scientist, focuses on data science applications, and also on geospatial artificial intelligence, which is, of course, a burgeoning field right now. The other thing to mention about Alex, which is relevant today, is that he manages our Esri Canada Centers of Excellence. So there are 11 schools in our network with strong GIS programs, and we run every year an annual hackathon similar to this, where we provide a topic for all of the students to work on, and over a week-long period, they're developing solutions to that problem. So lots of relevant expertise that we'll be going through this afternoon, and they're going to help us look at these topics that I'm going to cover maybe a bit more briefly this morning in more detail in those sessions. A little bit about Esri Canada. I recognize that some of the students have had actually geographic information systems courses, but many maybe have not. So we may not be as familiar to those people in the audience. So Esri's ArcGIS is the world's leading geographic information system software. And Esri is actually a little bit different than a lot of the other multinational companies. We're not a multinational, so we're not like Microsoft or Google, where it's one company across the world. Esri Inc., Esri Incorporated, develops the software there in the United States, and then in other regions and countries, there are separate private distributors. So Esri Canada was one of the first distributors. We're the largest distributor, founded and still owned by Alec Miller, our president. We've been growing quickly. I joined the company about 6 years ago. We had just over 400 employees. We expect this year to hit probably 650 employees, so growing really rapidly. 20,000 customers in Canada. Our main customer base, our largest individual customer base, is municipal governments, but we have customers and partners across both private and public sectors. And then important to us in education and research, as I said, we support anywhere up to about a dozen research projects a year. And that amounts to obviously varying year to year, but about 25 million in academic research that we're supporting every year. So I mentioned about the fact that we're growing, and a large part of the reason that we're growing as a company is that the use of GIS has been expanding pretty rapidly into other industries. And I thought it would be useful just to put up some of the key industries, areas where we're growing, quite a bit. Natural resources is one of our founding industries. We've been used in forestry and mining for many, many years now. Yeah, interesting to the challenge set today is that it really crosses a number of the key industries in the company. So, for example, when you're talking about access to healthy food or sustainable food access, things like how we plan our communities, how we design our communities, are key to ensuring that there's equitable access to food. Transportation, ensuring that people with limited income have good transit solutions so that they can get to the food, but also so that the food can be brought into their neighborhood. Ultimately, it becomes a public safety concern. If we have things like power outages or weather events, do people have reliable access to food in their communities? And then, of course, ultimately, it has a significant impact on people's health. So that's a significant concern as well. So the nice thing is that this challenge set really kind of crosses multiple industries that we're working in and that we're focused on. So with that, getting to the theme or the challenge set from us, and the challenge here is to look at both technical and human-centered solutions to addressing the problem of food deserts in our communities. And specifically, I intentionally put our company's tagline on this slide in the upper right, which is the science of where, because the unique thing about our software compared to some other informatics or data science software is that we have a really strong focus on spatial aspects. We believe that most challenges in the world have some spatial component. So we're looking for you to identify innovative approaches for addressing both socio-demographic and spatial inequalities in the availability of healthy food choices. And I think if you step back and think about it a bit, there's some pretty clear spatial components to this challenge set. So we also put together just a series of questions to maybe help you think about different aspects of this challenge. The first one, most broadly, is what are the socio-demographic and spatial determinants of inequality in food access? This is that idea that you're going to want to start any answer to a problem out by looking at what are the sources of that problem and how might we use digital tools to overcome some of these inequalities. Right in the title of the theme and the challenge set is the question of access. So the second question is really focused on the use of digital tools to access healthy food. So you might think of this as either how do we use transportation and access to get healthy food into communities, or how do we effectively provide transit opportunities for people to get out of their communities to where that healthy food is. The third one is thinking about it really from a logistics or some supply chain perspective, which is, are there ways that we could better use digital tools to actually connect all aspects of the supply chain, the farmers to the retailers, to the nonprofits and non-government organizations that are working in this area to try to create a more sustainable distribution network. And you might think, certainly in supply chains, AI is becoming a lot more widely used. Are there some solutions that we could use to try to create a more effective distribution network? And then finally, you might want to think of this in a more specific way, like, is there one group or one population that you're particularly interested in looking at? So what about people, maybe there's healthy food choices in their neighborhood, but that last mile, their ability to actually get out to it is limited by some mobility limitation that they have. So these are just some ways of looking at the problem. We run our own hackathons and we participate in a lot of hackathons. And so one of the things I wanted to make sure to say on this slide is please don't let these limit you. Your creativity is really what all of us are looking for here, and there may be an entirely different way that you could approach this problem, which isn't listed in these choices. So I hope these help you think about it, but please, as I say, don't let them limit you. So as a technology partner, obviously we have a set of tools that are available to you, as a way of addressing this challenge set. And as I say, we run our own hackathons, so we're pretty familiar with the way some of the tools get used in those events. So what I've tried to do here is just create a survey across our organization and across our tool sets to just give you an idea of some of the things that you might want to use. So obviously, starting out, what people actually think of as a GIS, the core software, we have two options there. One is ArcGIS Online, which is our web-based or software as a service tool that you can access through a web browser. Much easier to pick up. There's a lot of the most popular analysis tools available in that. It's not quite as advanced, obviously, as our professional scale software, but there's a lot of advantages to it. And it's where we organize our data. And so it's a way to connect out to all of the various apps that we have as well. So ArcGIS Online is a great option. It's definitely a great option for those who maybe don't have as much experience with using GIS. But to those of you that have had GIS in a course, you might be more familiar with our desktop software like ArcGIS Pro. And this really provides you professional levels of analysis, including things like geographic artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning algorithms that you can apply to do analysis, spatial analysis. As I say, it has a higher learning curve. But it has that additional capability. So it's a question of the trade-offs and thinking about what you actually want to do and which tool might be better for you. And we'll go through these in more detail this afternoon. The other one I wanted to introduce you to, the other area I wanted to introduce you to is Esri's apps. Through our experience with hackathons, there are three that I think are particularly useful that people often employ for these hackathons. So the first one is our form-based survey tool, Survey 123. And this is a tool that allows you to create a form to ask questions, and it's geo-enabled. So people can answer those questions on their phone, and it's going to record their location. And as a result, you're going to generate data from it. So you might use it to go out yourselves if you want to collect specific data from an area about food inequalities. But you also could integrate it into your solution so that part of your solution is crowdsourcing, going to people, giving them a simple survey that they need to fill out so that you're gathering some data from communities about their experience and their access to food. The second one, I think most people are probably familiar with dashboards as a concept, which is the idea of bringing together multiple data feeds to give a unified view on particular data or a particular problem. The one I'm using as an illustration here was created by Johns Hopkins soon after COVID came out. A researcher just quickly spun up this dashboard, and I think it may be the most viewed dashboard in history. I know it's certainly the last time I looked at it had over billions of page views of people visiting it to get more information on COVID. So this is a very easy way to get your data into a unified view and have different charts and maps that tell people about the particular issue that you're covering. And then finally, Story Maps, which is probably our most popular app. And you can think of this as similar to a PowerPoint or really more like a really easy website designer. So you can incorporate multimedia. You could actually bring both Survey 123 and ArcGIS dashboards in to Story Maps. You can bring maps in, multimedia, and it's just a way of telling a more narrative story about your data. And it's very popular, very easy to use. Moving up a level of sophistication, and when we run our hackathons, most of the students develop with one of these tools because they're highly configurable, so you can do a lot more with them. The easier version is Instant Apps. So we have these templated sort of web-based apps with 8 different templates that you can choose from. And they're pre-configured. So for example, this one's called Sidebar. You can have interactivity on the left-hand side in a frame with a map view in the main window. But there are other templates, and if one of those templates really fits well what you're trying to do, it's a no-code, relatively easy way to develop a data solution. And then the second one is Experience Builder, which is our really highly customizable web app builder. It's based on JavaScript and React. And there is a drag and drop interface so that you can actually design and implement solutions with no code. But if you are a JavaScript developer and you want to create your own custom widgets, you can also do that. And our group actually has a GitHub page with a lot of custom widgets that we've developed for it. So it definitely has a larger learning curve, but most of the students that work in our hackathons end up using Experience Builder. And the 2 staff members, Jonathan and Alex, who will be with us this afternoon, have a lot of expertise with this, so they could certainly help you out with it. And I don't want to forget that some of you in the crowd may be hardcore developers, actually. And so you may want to take a much more customized approach to things. And I just wanted to point out that Esri has a really comprehensive suite of our own APIs and SDKs so that you can access aspects of the platform and pull them out into some other application that you're looking to work on. And then the other side of that is that it's a two-way thing. We can both pull things out of the Esri platform, but we can also make use of some of the popular open source tools out there like Leaflet or MapLibra, and you can actually pull those things into an Esri application. So there's lots of developer opportunities here. And again, both Jonathan and Alex have extensive experience with this, so they can help guide you in this area. Of course, the really important thing, if you're going to be developing some of these applications and they're going to be data focused, is where are you going to get the data? And I wanted to highlight 2 areas here. There are certainly many more, which we can talk about this afternoon, but just to give you an idea, Esri provides something called the ArcGIS Living Atlas, which is part of any subscription to our software, which Seneca has. So you freely have access to this curated set of data. So for example, if you want to find any of Canada's census data, chances are there's a layer in the Living Atlas which is already pre-prepared, and you can just load into ArcGIS Online and then load into your app. Also, things like weather events or transportation networks, there's a lot of data on the ArcGIS Living Atlas. The other one, which we manage at Esri Canada, I said that municipalities are our largest customer base. Well, most of those municipalities have their own open data portals. And so we've created this tool which searches across all of these open data portals in Canada and can provide you access to any of that data. So if you're looking for grocery stores in Mississauga or road networks in Durham region, housing in Toronto, chances are there's some open data layers that are available through this portal. So getting you access to the data you need to address this challenge, I think, shouldn't be a problem. And we also have some other data sources which may be useful to you. So I just wanted to finish off at a very high level, just giving you an example of some of the types of tools that we've worked with people to use these tools to address their particular challenges. And all of these also have some data component which may be useful to you. So I thought these would just be useful to run through at a high level. I'm not going to run a live demo of them in the interest of time, but I did just want to talk you through some of them. So this first one is one that we did with Professor Zachary Taylor at Western University. He's in political science there. And one of the things that Zach has been doing is developing this database where he has harmonized all of Canada's census data from 1951 to 2021. So making common boundaries, making all of that data available. And this Experience Builder interface actually allows you to look at any variable in the census. So relevant to food equality, you might want to look at what's the income in a particular area compared to other areas. And you could also use the time slider to look at it over time, so you can see trends. What's been happening, for example, in the city of Toronto on issues like income. Down the right-hand side, there's a series of charts, and what those are generally doing is comparing the area that you see on the map on that variable to all of the other areas around it. So what's its distribution compared to other areas of the city? So lots of really interesting and useful data from this app that might be applicable for your solution set. Another one that we've worked on, and this is one that Alex has worked on with Professor Stephen Farber from Geography at University of Toronto. So with this, we worked with Statistics Canada and Housing and Infrastructure Canada and developed a layer for the whole country, which looks at accessibility. So on the left-hand side, for example, and you can, hopefully it's big enough that you can see that you can choose your mode of transportation. That could be walking, cycling, public transit, and you can choose the destination you're interested in. In this case, it's if I'm walking to a grocery store, how accessible is my neighborhood? And so all of the spatial data you can see here is by census dissemination area. And darker areas have higher accessibility, lighter areas have less accessibility. So this just shows you how do different neighborhoods compare? And again, the charts on the right-hand side show you representations of how does this particular area that I've selected relate to all of the areas around it. So this kind of accessibility data with some specific food implications, I think, is another one that would be interesting to you. And then finally, we actually do our own internal hackathons every year at our technology retreat. And this is one that Jonathan was part of. It was 2 years ago when we were partnering with Food Banks Canada. And this is another app for the city of Montreal. They were looking at if we had a power outage caused by a weather event, who would be impacted by that and what people would become food insecure potentially as a result of that kind of event in the city. So again, lots of different data sources coming into play here, which are directly relevant to this, the issue that we're talking about today. So that's a really quick survey across some of our tools, across the challenge set and some of the questions arranging that challenge set. I'd just like to say to everybody, whether you choose this challenge set or another one, I wish you very good luck with the hackathon. As I said, we have lots of experience with it. I think you're going to find it it'll be a lot of work, but it'll be a very rewarding experience. And I hope you all have some time to enjoy it as you're doing it. So that should cover it for us. And we look forward to seeing any of you that decide to join us in the mentorship sessions this afternoon.